Okay. Hello, testing. Can you hear me? And then I don't see anything. Maybe my Twitter's just acting weird. Here we go. I got it. God, this app is fucked. Well, we should be good. I just requested to speak.
Should I do the same or to work through Discord?
No, you should be fine.
You're in.
Sweet.
Yeah, just let me see testing. Yeah, we're good.
Sweet. It's great. You're muted though.
I know. I mean, do you want to start now, or are we gonna wait till people come in? Or...
Oh no, yeah, that's fine.
Might be just us today, boys. Yeah, keep doing it regardless. Okay, I can start off. We'll present to just us, and I'll go off mute, and let's kick it off. You down?
Yeah, take it off mute and just open it up, I guess.
Yeah, we'll do. Awesome. Well, yeah, we can just wait for a few more people to come in, but I think for sake of time, we should probably get started since all three of us will be presenting today. In case it's your first time listening or you're new here, this is the Samo DAO Trader Fade. Essentially, community members can go over which projects they're excited about or which ones maybe they're a little more worried about. Some of which have been in the news lately, some of which are some projects we found on our own. And we do a deep dive to kind of further educate the space and, share exactly what we're thinking. I'm going to be kicking it off today with a coin that I'm sure most of us are pretty familiar with. The coin today that I'll be covering is going to be Canto. I'll also be joined by GSS, who's going to be covering Hubble. And Ekim, can you remind me which coin you're covering today again?
Yeah, I got Synapse.
Synapse, awesome. Oh yeah, I remember this.
I'm actually not going to be covering Hubble this week. I'll be doing it next week.
Oh, cool. Even better. Sounds good. Well, we won't keep you guys waiting, so let's kick off Canto. So Canto, I'm sure, again, most of us have heard about it. It's a coin that's been all over the news lately, all over crypto Twitter, all over our charts. For anybody that hasn't seen it, essentially in the past 30 days, it's up a little over 500%. It's currently trading around 72 cents. Just yesterday, it was trading around 50 cents. Normally, we wouldn't do a trader fade on a coin that's had this kind of meteoric rise this recently. But we've gotten a lot of questions on it as of late, and I think there's still a lot of kind of gray areas around exactly what Canto is, what it does, where it came from. Some of the reasons we're bullish, and maybe some of the reasons you should kind of hesitate a little bit before buying. So without further ado, let's dive into the world of Canto. So, quick description of Canto. Canto is running on an EVM. That's an Ethereum virtual machine for anybody that's not aware. And it's a permissionless L1 and is also part of the Cosmos network. Primarily a Cosmos project. I think that's worth saying. Its goal is to essentially deliver on the promise of DeFi by promoting grassroots efforts in order to create FPI. So, what they're really trying to do is actually decentralize finance. I think when a lot of people hear DeFi, right, we automatically think decentralized. It's in the name, but you start looking at some of the players involved, and it's either huge whales, VCs. You have foundations kind of pulling the trigger on things and making decisions. Canto doesn't really have any of that, which can either make you very bullish or maybe make you bearish. But that's kind of their whole shtick. The sector they're in right now is a layer one, primarily focused on DeFi. Its current market cap. What's up?
Real quick, what's FPI? Promoting grassroots efforts in effort to create FPI.
Yeah, it's a like, oh, I'm trying to think how they described it. I literally like can't remember the word now. Now that you called me out on it. God, give me 1 second.
Oh, a free public infrastructure, I guess, isn't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
kind of
Sorry.
like
Free public infrastructure. Yeah, for some reason it
like a
was free
fancy
product
way of
infrastructure.
basically saying like, yeah, they want to create this DeFi primitive that's like, open source, kind of available to anyone to play around with. I've
Yeah.
never heard that before. That's an interesting term.
Yeah. For some reason, I kept saying like free product infrastructure, but I knew that wasn't it. Yeah. So, and we'll go into that later. That's on the next page. It's one of the reasons
Sure.
I'm personally bullish. It's also the reason a lot of people are bearish, and I think rightfully so. So we'll kind of unpack that a little bit. But diving back in, market cap 225 mil, fully diluted 531 million. Current trading volume for the past 24 hours is 915,000. Its all-time high when I typed this last night was 66 cents. It's currently trading at 73 cents and just kind of going up as we speak. So who knows? Maybe by the end of this slide, it'll be a little higher, could be a little bit lower. 30-day return as of last night was 563%. That's going to be a little higher today again because of the recent price movements right before this call. Max supply, 1 billion tokens. Circulating supply, 423 million. In terms of Twitter followers, again, they're really trying to go like the full decentralized route. There's no official Twitter. There is a Twitter called Canto Public, currently sitting at 44.5 thousand followers. But again, that's just like a community member that kind of grabbed that back in November and has been posting ever since. Speaking of back in November, that was pretty early on in the Canto life cycle, as Canto only launched as recently as August 2022.
Yeah, and it's already like, I guess technically, I don't know where this ranks per se. Maybe it's like a top 200 coin now.
Yeah, it's definitely a top 200, not quite top 100 yet, but we'll kind of dive into that during price targets as well.
And it's insane for like an
Yeah,
old L1. It's just popped out of
absolutely
nowhere.
insane for an Alt L1 to launch back in August and already kind of be punching well above its weight. But so let's see why exactly it is doing that, right? There's a lot of bullish scenarios that have been going on with Canto, and like we've said, it's barely 6 months old, and it's already a top 200 coin. And I don't know about you guys, but you spend 5 minutes on Twitter, and it's hard kind of getting away from Canto. So first off, something that's awesome about it: Cosmos native, EVM compatible. I'm sure most of us are pretty familiar with Cosmos now. Shout out Ekim for covering that actually about 2 weeks ago on Trader Fade. If you're not, Ekim can tell you all about it, or just DYOR. So Canto is a Cosmos native L1, but it's being built on top of an EVM. One of the cool things about building on top of EVMs is it allows for this like high speed growth of DeFi protocols, just because a lot of this is done in Solidity, and you can fork Solidity dApps onto Canto that already exist on other Ethereum chains. And then since Canto is faster than Ethereum itself, it operates twice as fast. The block speed for Canto is currently 6 seconds as opposed to 12, I believe. And it's built on what they call a EVM OS. If you've never heard of an EVM OS, I was going to try to type up a fancy explanation of my own, but I think their own words fit pretty well. It's a scalable, high throughput proof of stake blockchain. It's fully compatible and interoperable with Ethereum. And again, right, once you have that kind of system set up, it makes it really easy to find dApps you like on other EVM compatible chains and essentially just fork that over to Canto, saving a ton of time in terms of building. Not to mention, all of this is built using Cosmos' SDK. I think we all know we're pretty big fans of Cosmos over here. And it's using a Tendermint core as their consensus engine. Tendermint core, like 10,000 foot view, very similar to Bitcoin's proof of work, except it's a little cheaper, moves a little faster, and isn't as clunky. Feel free to dive in a little deeper. I can also post some resources if you do want to look into Tendermint. Next bull scenario, true decentralization. It has a really, really cool narrative, and I think narratives are extremely strong in the space. And when looking at something like Canto and its recent rise, I think narrative has everything to do with that. The fact that one, it can be truly decentralized, and they really, really push this using that like FPI narrative that we talked about earlier. And they execute this essentially by having a few things. They have no official foundation. They had no token allocation pre-sale. There's no vesting, there's no VC backing of it whatsoever as of yet. And the community has kind of followed suit by frequently shunning any kind of VC backing for any projects being developed on the chain. For example, like Alto and the DEX that currently exist on Canto have no VC backing whatsoever. And then they stand by their 3 core primitives that are posted on the website as listed below. Fee-free DEXs, free lending, and decentralized money in the form of Note. Note is their, and I use air quotations here, it's their stable coin. We'll go a little more in depth there later, but some interesting things going on with Note. I don't like calling it a stable coin. They don't even call it a stable coin themselves, but they do expect it to operate as one. And then the final part is a thriving community. I think anybody that was around for Solana Summer 2021 knows how powerful a community can be. And I've already seen people kind of drawing these comparisons between Solana and Samo in 2021 and what Canto's currently seeing going into this spring and eventually the summer. Personally, this is what brought me over to Canto. There's a lot of excitement and activity. There's a ton of creativity. I guess creativity is a loose word. Some of the NFTs are pretty ridiculous, but they're also hilarious. If you just take like a quick dive into the community, it's got a ton of activity right now. Like you go into any kind of Discord, and I think that's where you're going to get some of the best information. You go into these Discords, you talk to people, you talk to these NFT project founders, and you talk to these community members, and they're all as excited as we were about a year ago. There's been a ton of mints already, even more rugs, but at this point, when you have that many mints, it's like rugs come with it. I think we're all familiar with that. But the community is really excited to participate regardless of the outcome. There's a ton of degeneracy. I think, there's kind of this like connection between like that degen mentality and a chain really blowing up. You have to be kind of crazy to ape into a chain that's already gone up 30%. Then when it goes up another 30%, you throw more money in, it kind of attracts a certain kind of individual. And in a bear market right now, individuals like such as myself seeking out the energy of like a brand new chain. Not that Solana's old, it's still only a couple of years old. It's also a brand new chain, but Canto's literally months old. And that kind of energy and movement is super attractive, and it's really fun to be a part of for a lot of people. And these communities, right, they start making memes, which seems pretty innocent in the beginning, but when you have people cranking out stuff like that all day, every day, it kind of becomes a personality and their own self-image online, whether it's crypto Twitter or Discord, and it becomes extremely sticky. And that kind of activity essentially builds these huge communities that, regardless of price, build out the backbones of these L1s, whether it's Solana, Ethereum, Cosmos, or in this case, Canto. Below, I just posted a few of the memes I'd seen. Again, right, it's like all stuff we've seen on Solana and the Samo Discords, but now we're kind of seeing it over in Canto, which for me, pretty bullish. But let's dig into a couple of the upcoming catalysts. Something cool about Canto is they have these Canto hackathons. These are all organized by community members on the Canto Discord. There's no like Canto Foundation or like VC or like investors hosting huge hacker houses or anything. It's essentially just people coming together on the Discord, firing up what they call seasons or chapters, putting aside dates, and then people kind of investing in their friends or themselves. The reason this is a catalyst for me is we have one ending February 19th. There's a few weak points, I think, in Canto right now, specifically their NFT marketplaces, as well as only having a single DEX. These choke points have really been tested over the past few weeks. Anybody that's been involved in the Canto NFT space has probably been pulling their hair out to smooth jazz on Alto. If you're not familiar, Alto is the only NFT marketplace on Canto right now, and it is getting absolutely annihilated because of volume. Very bullish, but also really difficult when you're trying to make trades, purchase products on Alto, and the site either doesn't work or, in some cases, actively works against you. And we'll actually look into that a little bit more in the risk section of this. Next is listings. Now that Canto is really starting to gain some like serious attention, like I said, everybody's kind of hearing about it as of late. It's all over Twitter. It's about time we start seeing some of these exchanges probably follow suit. We have had Mexi list Canto, and I believe that's it as of right now. So in terms of like centralized exchanges, only having one leaves a ton of upside. And if this narrative continues and we do see like a Solana summer situation, you're going to start having people hearing about this that normally aren't too crypto native. They're going to see the price action, and when it hits a centralized exchange, maybe they ape in again. Like, do your own research, not financial advice. But it's something we've seen time and time again, where you see these kind of smaller chains that blow up within crypto itself, expand these bigger exchanges. That hype doesn't stop; it just kind of grows exponentially.
Yeah, and one thing just there to add on to it, Swick, that's like really interesting and popping out at me is like to your point, like once more exchanges come online, maybe that'll help with price discovery. But it is worth noting, like right now, it's only doing like $1 million a day in trading volume, which is pretty crazy for a token that has circulating market cap of like 300 million. Maybe it's like something to be weary of too. I don't know, but just wanted to
No, totally.
throw that
There's
out.
we'll get into that. There's some really really weird volume TVL things going on Canto, which is why like I'm a big fan of it to a certain degree in terms of the narrative, but some of its operational side of things kind of freak me out a little bit, and we'll dive in there. Um, for all of you that know me, you know that I don't really do TA. Was just kind of pulling up some of the charts here. And a few things I noticed is one, obviously, like its meteoric rise. It's really scary to get involved in a coin right here. I know when kind of working on my like learning sessions with GSS, he frequently talks about like the golden ratio here in terms of the Fibonacci at 1.618. It blew past it this morning and continues to climb, while we also see the RSI go pretty well into oversold on the 1 day chart. The 4 hours a little different in terms of RSI, still fairly oversold, but nothing like the 1 day chart. So again, not much of a TA guy, but I mean, I can tell when a chart's ripping and is a little scary when I see one, and this one's definitely been essentially up only, for lack of a better word. Price targets. Price targets are a little more difficult when it comes to like pure L1s, right? We're not looking at something like last week when I'm diving into Convex or even Radiant, where it's like, okay, well, I can compare these tokens to other pieces in the space, whether I'm going to compare Radiant or Convex to Curve or Aave or something like that. When you're kind of involved in the L1 war, your eyes, your like horizon becomes much bigger. So two targets I'm looking at is kind of involved in the targets that GSS and I were just talking about earlier, right? We've seen this token kind of break out the gates, skyrocket, find itself in the top 200 tokens. So I started doing some number plugging and looking at what happens if we break a top 100, or in an insane scenario we end up finding ourselves in the top 50 as Canto holders. Looking at the top 100, number 100 is currently Helium HNT, another fantastic project, and a project that I honestly love and have a lot of history with, and I'm sure you'll be hearing about that eventually on one of these. If Canto surpasses Helium, becomes number 100 of the top 100 coins on CoinMarketCap, we would see a value right now of 0.975, which is pretty insane. Also, this return percentage is wrong. It looks like it reverted back, so please ignore these. My apologies for that. And then looking at a return, entry into the top 50 of tokens, we would be looking at a $3 Canto. That would be equal to the price of Sand, which is Sandbox, which for everybody that was around during the metaverse narrative, not that it's gone, but that was a huge topic in 2021. Sandbox is a force to be reckoned with. So not saying it'll happen. If it does, that'll be an extreme accomplishment. So we'll see where we end up there.
Yeah, real quick on that, if you want to just go back to the slide. So yeah, you called it out. There's probably just a small mistake. The 5,000% return. If I just ran the numbers real quick. If Canto were to break in the top 100, you're looking at like an incremental 40% upside from current levels, which is like still pretty pretty good. I mean, I feel like it's crypto where you like say 40% return. You're like, it's all right. But Yeah, I guess for anyone else who's curious, like, Phantom, which was around last cycle, it's an alt L1 EVM. Andre Crony, who did Yearn, he's like, the head honcho over there. That ecosystem's done really well. What Phantom is, Canto is trading at like 20% of that market cap. It's 1.5 billion. So I mean, like, I guess that's like another way to think about it, right? Too, is like you could say, like, I wonder, like, if Canto were to kind of become like the Phantom of this next cycle, that it doesn't imply like a 5x from current levels. So yeah, still has some probably a lot of room to run if you like subscribe to the idea that L1s are like a big capital rotation game. And we'll see like new ones pop up every cycle. But yeah, sorry, just wanted to jump in and throw that out there. Thought that was
No,
this like
totally.
analysis
And I
was
think
pretty interesting.
it's worth like having the conversation of, when you're looking at like the L1 game, like you said, there is kind of this like thought process of maybe this is all just like a musical chairs capital rotation. You rotate to the next one. While the tokenomics are a bit different, it's like, there was a place in time in 2020, I believe December 2020, when Solana was 50 cents, right? And now we're seeing Solana as a top 10 token pretty frequently. Obviously, we're all a little biased here to how great Solana is, but I mean, it's just like not out of the question to see these things explode. Tokenomics given, but while it seems insane to be looking at like a $3 Canto, I really don't think that if it like continues to grow and makes the right decisions, years down the line, maybe we see something like that. Is it something I'll hold my breath on? Probably not, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah, and I mean, like, look, it's like a whole nother conversation. We don't have to go into it, but like, I do think that is like a narrative worth thinking about. Is like the L1 trade next cycle, and it's like, of course, there's going to be Ethereum, and there's going to be Solana, and I think Solana will actually stand out and like certainly solidify itself next cycle as like an L1, alt L1 that's not going away, but so long as like we don't have like we don't have like a single blockchain running something like the Nasdaq on it, or excuse me, the New York Stock Exchange, or like these blockchains where they're like managing and running some sort of insane throughput and doing all this computational power. I think that you'll just continue to see more like L1s pop up where they're like, oh, we've got this new innovative approach for mass scalability and decentralization. And, I think VCs, there's every incentive for them to throw dollars into it. And so for that reason, like, Canto, amongst others, it's probably like just worth thinking about like what other L1s will be part of that alt L1 narrative. But sorry, I'll shut up. Go ahead, Swig.
No, no, totally fine, totally fine. Also, saw we had a few more people join over on Twitter. If you are listening on Twitter, you're probably wondering like what charts we're talking about and what we're pointing at right now. Feel free to hop into the Samoid Coin Discord where all of this is being displayed. We have some charts up. All of us have some nice slides we built for you all, and you can actually get the visual aspect of things. But without further ado, let's go to the next section and kind of discuss Canto's competitors. As you know, we've just been talking about when it comes to the competition, a little different than this slide for our last projects. The coolest part about Canto is it is an L1 trade, right? Do you want to make that L1 rotation? But that being said, the competition becomes, for lack of a better word, like the big boys, right? Like you're up against some serious competition when you're in the L1 fight. You're starting from the ground up. You're trying to capture volume. You're trying to capture users, and you're in a space right now that, for better or for worse, there's a lot of tribalism in crypto. Something that I'm personally against, but a lot of people are pretty ingrained in. And when trying to convince somebody to leave their L1, whether it be Matic, Ripple, Cardano, Solana, Ethereum, and come to yours, it becomes a pretty difficult scenario. So I like to look at this as if you're going to play the L1 game, you have that upside, but you have to realize your competition is every other L1 out there. And I mean, this is like the top 10 tokens right now in CoinMarketCap, and this is Canto's competition. It's something that kind of needs to be kept in mind when trading this token. So some risks. Canto, obviously something that has such high reward as we've seen thus far, also comes with some very serious risks. One of those risks, again, is also one of its biggest strengths. Decentralization. There's a reason a lot of chains don't take as hard of a stance on decentralization as Canto does. As much as we wish they would, there's obviously downsides here. Your chain and its community members have a huge level of responsibility. You don't have funding, you don't have a foundation, and you don't have a team. Frequently, this results in a lack of organization or just like lack of speed, if anything. When it comes to decision making, having everything be an on chain vote by its holders can slow things down and prevents you from being as nimble as a chain would need to be in a space that moves this fast. That also opens it up to anybody with a lot of money can kind of buy themselves into a serious position. Hopefully you have some big holders and some great holders the way that we do here in Solana and Samo, but not everybody that's a whale is as interested in the chain as you think they are. So it kind of adds this power spread of you don't know who's pulling the strings when it comes to these votes. There's also growing pains right now that we're witnessing. As I talked earlier, there's only one NFT marketplace right now, and the NFTs on Canto are exploding. And having a single marketplace such as Alto control everything, while it's great for Alto, it's tough for the consumer. Alto's been down almost every day for a few hours for the past 2 weeks due to the NFT volume. Not only that, when it's down, it's unusable, but there's been an issue as of late that when you try to sell your NFT on Alto and it's down and you don't realize it and you go to list it, the listing contract gets kind of held in limbo and it frequently loses the price that you listed for. And after a few hours, we'll just post your NFT for $0. This is something Alto is aware of, something most communities are speaking about. If you hop into like any Canto NFT community, it'll probably be like a pinned post or one of the announcements. Alto does have an issue right now of listing your NFTs in terms of a glitch for $0. And then once somebody buys it, there is absolutely no way to recoup your loss outside of maybe good faith from the buyer. That is the guy that bought it for $0 reaching out to them and saying, hey, that was my NFT, that was a mistake, can you give it back? While I've met a lot of great people in crypto, I think that's a pretty tall order for a lot of individuals to expect some stranger on the internet to say, yeah, no problem, buddy, like here's your NFT back. It usually doesn't work that way, and so far I haven't seen it work that way. And I don't want to take up too much time. I know I've already taken 30 minutes and we still have Ekim's presentation, but the final risk I have here is Note. As I talked about earlier, right, decentralization, fee-free dexes, and decentralized money. And the way they do that is by using a, again, air quotations here, stable coin called Note. And I'm calling it a stable coin, and that gets a lot of pushback from the Canto community, and rightfully so. But it's because they want it to be treated as one, though it is not an algorithmic stable coin. This is not like UST. It's just a pegged token that really doesn't have anything backing it, but they want to keep it as $1. It's really interesting. I was trying to find more information on it. Information on Canto's website is extremely opaque in regards to Note, which was a red flag for me, but digging a little deeper, I'm not the only one looking into this. So let's take a look at Note specifically in relation to the volume and the TVL of Canto. The movement and trading of Note currently makes up 72% of Canto's volume. And the issue here is that since there's no fees, what we've been seeing is this flywheel that individuals have essentially made where you can currently buy Note using USDC, USDT, or trading it for Canto. So you can take Canto, purchase Note, which should be pegged to $1, currently depegged by 3 cents. So it's coming out at 97 cents to the dollar of Canto. But you would take Canto, purchase Note, take that Note, go back and buy more Canto with it. And as it slowly depegs, you can spend less Canto for more Note. And it starts pumping up the price here. And when you look at some of the volume here, that's, again, 72% of what's happening is this never-ending swap out of Canto for Note. One of the pushbacks is that it's a automated market maker. It doesn't seem to be the case. You can kind of dig in a little deeper and you'll see that what they're doing as well is using Synapse, which we're going to be talking about in just a minute, to essentially build trade paths where they'll just move money down a chain of 10 to 12 different swaps, not make any money, sometimes lose. But again, like small fractions of it. And this registers as a ton of transactions when really it's just moving back and forth on a fee-free DEX. This spikes up volume, gets a lot of attention, and in the case of swapping Note for Canto in the flywheel, increases the price of Canto. Looking in a little deeper, let's look at the TVL side of things. Right now, Notes is said to be backed by $42 million in collateral of USDC and USDT each. This is contributing to Canto's recently sky-high TVL that I think a lot of people are seeing, because both of those are getting counted 3 times because of the creation of Note, which they're adding that to the value of Note on top of the Canto swap for it. So we're counting some dollars 3 to 4 times, depending if we're only counting Note or you're counting that $1 that's spread across USDC, Note, and Canto being swapped. This boosts up the TVL and again adds to Canto's sky high numbers that we're seeing in terms of volume and TVL. And then it gets even crazier when you kind of start digging into Note. For those of you looking at the screen, this is the current supply of Note. Note cannot be created. They just made it all at once. It can only be swapped out for Canto. So part of their argument is they never want it to run out if it's going to be, like a stable coin and say at $1. And they need this amount to essentially maintain stability in case we see the price of Note skyrocket due to demand. Their fix for this is essentially just mass money printing, which anybody that's, been around for the past few years and witnessed some of the United States money printing policies knows that that doesn't last forever and has some very, very serious consequences. So this mass supply of stables combined with a fee-free trading, as I mentioned earlier, essentially allows a unlimited growth of volume in TVL. And as I said here, right, like creates incredible numbers overnight, and that's exactly what we've seen. And then at the very end here, I essentially added in, just in case anybody wanted to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. This is from Canto's website about how they essentially handle the depegging of Note. If it goes under, they change the interest rates to essentially strengthen the incentive for buying and lending Note. If it goes over, they just dump a ton more into the ecosystem by swapping it out for Canto. Pretty concerning. That number is just like, I don't think I've ever seen a number that big in my life. For those of you that can't see it, it's got to be at least like 45 to 50 digits. It's pretty ludicrous in terms of the supply. But I don't want to end it all on a poor note. I think anybody that's looked at Canto or has been watching it as recently knows there's a ton of excitement. There's a lot of really cool people in this space. I've made some really good relationships during this research journey for you guys, digging into like NFT projects, meeting people that have been in Canto since November, hanging out in some of these discords to see what the people are like. They're really cool people. There's a lot of excitement. It's extremely contagious. And I don't want to say that like this is the end all be all in terms of the risk section and that like you should not buy this coin. Every coin has its risks and it also has its upside. And I think Canto has a ton of both, for better, for worse. So without further ado, I'll pass this over to Ekim. I hope you guys enjoyed Canto, and Ekim's going to dive into Synapse or Synapse. We had a little conversation about how to pronounce it, but for those of you that want Canto, listen up, because Synapse is one of the best ways to do so.
Right, thank you. Yeah. It's funny how like we were talking about Canto a couple weeks ago, and like Synapse came up in that, so it'll start to make sense. Synapse is, gaining a lot of volume with Canto as of recently. So let me share the screen here. Just double checking. Let me know if you can see it just fine.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, sweet. So for this week, I'll be going over Synapse. And yeah. Synapse is a protocol that connects blockchains by offering an extensible cross-chain messaging protocol, and that supports assets, smart contracts, and more. By leveraging the Synapse protocol, blockchains can easily and securely interoperate with each other, and developers can build truly cross-chain applications. Some of these applications include DEXs, lending platforms, margin systems, derivative markets, and yield aggregators. This sector, this is kind of a strange one, but it is building kind of multiple things. So I just labeled it as like an interoperable chain. But one of its main features is the bridge, which will be covering a little later. And it'll sort of make sense here. Current market cap, it's been pretty volatile today. So this is just going off of like some information I updated maybe like an hour ago. The market cap currently is around $220 million. The fully diluted market cap is around 290 mil. It's got some nice volume in the last 24 hours of around $11 million. Sitting at nearly $1.25 here, with an all-time high of nearly $5. And a 30-day return of 175%. I believe that went up just as of today. But you know, things are super volatile. So it's got a max supply of 250 million and a circulating supply of 190. Mainly when I look into projects, not gonna lie, like the tokenomics have to be on point for me to even kind of look into it. It can be like the greatest idea in the world, and it's just like not worth it as an investor to look into something that is going to get destroyed by unlocks or whatever the case may be. They're sitting at like nearly 56K on Twitter, so they don't have too much attention, but it's still a growing project. So, and then mainnet went live in September of 2021. So just going over like a broad view of what it is. Synapse is an interoperability protocol designed for safely and securely sending arbitrary data between blockchains. The arbitrary data kind of, it sounds kind of advanced, but it's more just wrapping assets, whether that be like native coins on certain blockchains. For example, Solana has SPLs, or Ethereum has ERC20s. And it can also do something like an NFT, and allow for other projects to build on top of Synapse. So the protocol is pretty much comprised of 2 or 3 main parts. We got the generalized cross-chain communication, which allows, this is a messaging system that pretty much allows arbitrary data, which I said before, which could be like wrapped assets and or NFTs, to be sent across the chain in a secure and seamless way. Applications no longer have to separately deploy across multiple blockchains. Rather, they can be deployed on a single chain and communicate with other chains to create the same exact user experience all in one layer. They also use a different type of consensus protocol. They call it the optimistic security model. And this allows, similar to how like optimism or optimistic rollups work, and that transactions are assumed to be honest by default, with a network of off-chain actors responsible for submitting fraud proofs. And this is kind of like, it gets interesting because you can make the case here that it's not 1,000% decentralized. Obviously, with an off-chain kind of system to report any fraudulent transactions, it's not as, for example, as decentralized as something like more EVM chains that are built with the Ethereum virtual machine. So that's maybe a downfall here, but it came in handy later on. I'll go over that in the risks. But it was a good thing that it was working that way. Another part of Synapse is the bridge, and this is one of the main parts, and why people are bullish on Synapse, including myself. This allows the user to seamlessly swap on-chain assets through 15 EVM chains, and they also have some non-EVM blockchains as well. And of course, they want to do it in a safe and secure manner. There's 2 types of bridgings that you can use here. You got the liquidity-based bridging, which is the bridging of native assets across chains using those stable swap pools. They also have an AMM on the protocol as well, just to help some of that liquidity. And then you got CTB. I'm not even going to pronounce that because I'm going to butcher it, but pretty much just a bridging of wrapped assets across the chain. So the SYN token, this is probably, one of the most important slides here, just to give you a rundown of what, as a holder, what are you getting out of the SYN token and what is its value accrual. We got the SYN token is the native asset of the Synapse protocol. There's a couple core functionalities of the token itself. You could obviously stake the token. So obviously you stake it to become part of the network and earn rewards through validating transactions. It's also a governance token. Hence maybe why the team is super low key and no one really knows who they are. But you can use SYN to vote on governance proposals within the chain. And then obviously you got protocols and fees. And these fees include interacting with the smart contract, fees for bridging across chain, and any fees for ensuring and validating the security of the network. They're all paid in SYN itself, so that's kind of where the value accrual comes from here. Users are going to have to pay for everything using SYN, so that's that. And you also have incentives and rewards. The SYN token is used to incentivize good behavior on the network, such as providing liquidity in their pools, maintaining high quality data, and participating in the governance. So there's a couple things here. It's kind of basic, but I just want to give that a rundown because I know it's like, this is a great protocol. It has bridging, but like, where does the token come in here? Why I'm personally bullish on this. So this protocol kind of like spiked, with everything else in the last couple of weeks. But I really discovered it while searching through Coinbase on some stuff that I can look through. In terms of like interoperability, that's one sector, or I guess like area of crypto that I'm really bullish on myself. I just think there needs to be platforms for people to use, to swap in between chains. I know there's so much stuff going on in each chain, but there's really no way for chains to connect to each other. For example, Ethereum to Polygon or AVAX or all these different types of chains. So I truly believe Synapse has the unique ability to capture market share with its bridge using existing chains. And of course, there's going to be new chains popping up. And I think Synapse can really capitalize on that. They really have a great UI, which is one of the main things I try and focus on when looking at different protocols. Like, do they have great user experience? And is this, intuitive to use? Is it difficult? Like, what are the steps you have to go through? It's really not many. So that's one of them. And then also, I just believe it's going to be onboarding new users into crypto in general. I know as I try and learn in the crypto space, right? You're curious about different chains and whatnot. And some of these chains, it might be difficult to get your hands on some of these, these tokens itself. And Synapse kind of opens that up to new chains as well, but also just existing chains. Like the classic Ethereum. It's just an easy way to get from one place to another with relatively low fees and fast transactions. They also are focused. The team itself are focused on building for new users as well as existing ones, and even developers to leverage the protocol and build new cross-chain experiences. They offer swaps between major L1s, L2s, and side chains as well. It's more DeFi focused, right? If you're someone that's a yield farmer or something like that, you'd want to swap chains. Maybe go to Arbitrum for the low fees. Maybe there's some type of incentive on optimism that you want to bridge over for. Synapse makes that very simple and just helps people onboard into the new chain itself. Some competitors here. We got Ren, which is actually relatively small compared to Synapse. Synapse was sitting at something like a $200 million market cap, and Ren is sitting at somewhere around 100 mil. If you haven't seen Ren, there's like the infamous Ren BTC. These are just assets that are backed one-to-one, that are wrapped and represent the underlying asset on their various blockchains. So, example, they have like Ren BTC or Ren ETH or all these different wrapped assets that run through the Ren protocol. And then you obviously have the Wormhole Bridge. I'm sure a lot of you have known this project or heard of it in the headlines. It was infamously hacked. I think the wrapped ETH bridge was hacked, and this was like earlier last year. And we'll go through that in the risks part. Obviously, there's a risk with that as always, but yeah, just another competitor there. Huge. Honestly, Wormhole is probably one of the most well known and well used bridges throughout the crypto ecosystem. But they don't have a token, right? So competitors, yes, they could steal market share from Synapse, of course, but they don't have a token, so maybe they're not competing on that front. But just thought I would mention Wormhole as it is, one of the larger bridges. Some stats I found on DeFi Llama for total value locked. As you could obviously see right here in the middle, in May of 2022, UST depegging really crushed not only Synapse itself, but just the crypto ecosystem with total value locked. I know UST was really pushed in multiple chains. For example, I know Cosmos used UST a lot. And obviously, when the depeg happened, it affected the whole crypto market. The 3AC stuff went down. So total value locked isn't as great as it once was, but we've seen that across the board for other protocols like Solana or almost every other chain. So not too big of a deal, but you can obviously see it market cap versus TVL. We did see a pretty strong spike in the beginning area of 2023 here. So maybe we'll see the TVL lift up, but most of the chain TVL is held on ETH or layer 2s. Arbitrums are really popular, almost overtaking ETH over here in the chain breakdown. So you can kind of see the different chains and what people are using based off of total value locked. So here we got some TA. By no means am I a trader or anything, but I just kind of like to keep an eye on these things. Obviously, as a buyer, you want to get the best price and kind of see like where price action is headed or what it's looking like. So this chain actually doesn't, this chart does not go all the way back. This is just pulled off of the Coinbase listing. So it doesn't capture the all-time high, which is a little above here. I think it would probably be back here around like $5, but nevertheless, we had kind of this descending channel throughout the bear market in all of 2022. And luckily, right as soon as we hit 2023, we kind of broke out of this thing. We're starting to see the moving averages pop up. So maybe we see a cross and maybe we turn bullish here. We got some resistance here at like $2 and then some more at like 3, 5, and 4. So, who knows? It's kind of in between this channel between 70 cents and $2. I didn't really do any like super tight TA just to kind of give it a range, and we'll see where it goes from here. It had some pretty explosive growth at the start of February in the last couple days. So like anything, it could pull back here, or maybe the narrative keeps pushing and people keep using Synapse and keep pushing the price higher. Just returning to some price action here, or like maybe some price predictions. I just kind of ran the math to what it would be like to return to all-time highs. With the current price sitting at around $1.25, and comparing that to the Synapse all-time high of around $5, we would see like a solid 4x or 400% return if we reached back to the all-time high. So obviously in crypto, like a 5x is still really, really nice, but that's going back to peak bull run back in 2021. So just something to keep your eye on. These are super important with the risks and downsides. And we'll be going through some stuff that'll make sense or kind of connect to the stuff I covered before. Starting off with the hacks and exploits. Just like any other cross-chain service or bridge, there's always going to remain a risk for an exploit or a hack. There's just too many moving parts in these bridges, these cross-chain protocols, especially with bridging funds from one native asset to a different one. There's so many technicalities that go into it, and there's just too many. Sometimes there might be too many ways for the hackers to exploit, and they pull away with funds. So like the competitor I mentioned before, Wormhole, we've seen a $320 million hack using the wrapped ETH bridge. in early 2022. And Synapse actually had a scare of its own with its native stable coin called NUSD. This stablecoin is used in most of their pools on the website that you can deposit in. So you can deposit, USDC and BUSD for NUSD, and use it throughout their staking and AMM models. This was actually exploited right after the mainnet launch. I believe it was 2 months after Synapse launched. So in late 2021, they got exploited. Believe it was November, and they launched in like August or September. And luckily, there was no funds lost due to the consensus protocol that I talked about before on the optimistic consensus, where the validators actually caught these fraudulent and malicious transactions from the hacker. They saw it was similar to like a flash loan attack where they messed up the price of NUSD and exploited the protocol for $9 or $8 million. Luckily, they didn't get away with it. And the validators kind of came in and found that malicious transaction and cut it off before they could get out. But they did fork it after that, and this is kind of on the AMM side, whereas the bridge was not affected by this. Just as a heads up there. And then obviously another downside that I personally see with Synapse is, although it does have 16 chains currently, including some of your top L1s and L2s like Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain. You got L2s like Polygon, an EVM like Avalanche. Another L2 is Optimism and Arbitrum. I do think that's great, and I think a lot of DeFi volume will flow into those chains. But I'd love to see projects like Solana, Cosmos, and Polkadot. Solana in particular would be awesome to see with like an L1, just to have an easy way to swap from ETH to Solana if you so choose, or vice versa. And then more of Cosmos and Polkadot, just heading into like the interoperability play. I think Synapse could do really well with integrating into those projects. And then as the multi-chain world evolves, I think we'll see more and more support for coming chains, up and coming chains. One example that Swick covered earlier today was Canto. There hasn't been a very easy way to get to Canto, right? And so you're going to have to look at, for example, Mexi Global, which I think was one of the only exchanges that Swick mentioned. And I think they're really not listed anywhere else. And obviously, sometimes you don't want to go and mess around with those centralized exchanges. So Synapse is a really easy way for you to get to Canto. I think it's one of the main ways that people are getting over to the chain. That kind of makes me bullish, considering maybe new chains integrate into Synapse, and maybe the bridge is the gateway into the chain itself, similar to like how Canto's been running recently. So yeah, that's the presentation. We got some sources. I just went through, looked at their analytics page. If you are interested, I'd highly recommend checking out their docs page and their analytics. They have some similar to like how Dune Analytics works. They have some great data over there showing you TVL, market cap, and activity on the chain. So yeah, that was my project. So yeah, any questions?
Awesome, well done. Yeah, lots of good data in there. And
Love
yeah,
the Bridger
appreciate you
meme.
sharing the sources too.
Yeah, you gotta have the Bridger meme, dude. I saw that on Twitter. I was like, I'm throwing that there. Got it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's something to be said about that. I think it's what like you and I were talking about, where it's almost a way to like hedge your bet on like multiple chains at once. Where it's like, if you think that like some cool chains are going to be coming out, why not like own some stake in the road that people take to get to those chains? It's like it's kind of a no-brainer. But yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks for the info.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely like a way for people to get in. And with Canto, we've kind of seen this explosion of users in Synapse. I've seen it all on Twitter. I've been kind of like lurking with the tag of Canto and Synapse, and there's a lot of like mentions, like how do I get over to Canto, or like a ton of people are explaining like the specific way to get over. And it's kind of weird how like Canto, although it's been exploding in price, and maybe I'm just salty because I didn't get in when I wanted to, but it's very strange how it's not listed on like certain dexes. For example, like it's a Cosmos token, but you can't find it on Osmosis, which is super strange. And I guess like Synapse kind of bridges the gap there, no pun intended, because it's EVM compatible, so it kind of allows users to use MetaMask to get over to Canto, and maybe we'll see that with other chains as well, popping up, integrating into Canto, and then being like you said that road into the protocol. Yeah.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Or are we good?
I think I'm good.
All right, sweet. Cool.
Perfect. Well, I know next week we'll have Hubble presented by GSS. And again, if anybody really feels strongly about some tokens and wants to put in the time, I'll admit it's not easy, but it's definitely very, very rewarding. I think it's one of the best things you can do right now. While like the bear market, we're starting to see a lot of movement, and who knows how much longer we'll be using that word, but you can kind of sit on your hands and twiddle your thumbs, or you can kind of dig in, do some research, and find some projects that are worth maybe throwing some money at while the prices are so low. But until then, we'll see you guys next week, and thanks again for stopping by.
Yeah, and just real quick, to throw that out, just to round it out, for Swick. We'll post this video on YouTube because we recorded it, so anyone who wants to revisit it or might have missed it, they can check it out. And then we'll share in the Discord too our template for getting up to speed with how to produce one of these presentations. And then if you're interested in attending and presenting, you can let us know by filling out a form. But yeah, I guess I'll close it out then. And pick up where Swick left off. But thanks everyone for attending, and hope you found this of interest. Of course, give us a shout if you have any questions or you want to get involved. Till next time.
See y'all.